Director of State Operations for Governor Cuomo. We just completed an aerial inspection tour of the Schoharie region and the Catskill region, some of the hardest hit regions in the state. We're joined by Governor Cuomo, Secretary Napolitano, Administrator Fugate, and I want to also acknowledge a number of the local officials that were with us and have been working here very, very hard on the ground. Congressman Paul Tonko was with us on the flyover. Congressman Chris Gibson as well. Senator Jim Seward is here. Corey O'Hara, the supervisor for this town, is here, and I know how hard this young man has worked relentlessly over the last few days. Wayne Speenberg, the chair of the Greene County Legislature, is here with us. Sean Gordon, the administrator. Greg Seeley, the sheriff. John Farrell, the emergency operations person for Greene County. I want to also acknowledge the state officials that have been working in this region and throughout the state. Andrew Feeney, our emergency management director, and General Patrick Murphy of the National Guard. The National Guard has done a tremendous job putting resources into the field.
That's right.
And of course, not only those people at that level, but all of the first responders, the people on the ground, and everyone who's been working tirelessly. We are now in full recovery mode in this operation. You see it here around you. There are thousands of National Guard and other personnel deployed around the state and in this region. We're bringing in a tremendous amount of equipment, heavy equipment, to help begin the recovery and rebuilding effort. Excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, heavy equipment of all kind. We've been bringing in food and water right into this area right here. 16,000 liters of water came in last night. We brought in 22,000 meals because the area is still somewhat inaccessible, although we're working very hard to open all the roads. We're working with our local partners, and we're going to increase that coordination today by opening 2 recovery command centers in the Catskill-Schoharie region. The state will open these with FEMA, with the local partners at Bel Air Mountain Ski Area. It's a good, open, accessible area. We'll have a command post there, and we'll also have one at the Schoharie County Fairgrounds up near Cobleskill. Yesterday, the governor announced that he was creating an upstate recovery task force, deploying all of his major commissioners and agency heads that are part of this effort. We'll be locating the state agencies that provide support and leverage to those centers in the next couple of days. Recovery efforts are continuing. I'm glad to report that we're down to about 330,000 people without power in the state. That's down from 1 million on Sunday night. So about 78% of the state has power returned, working very hard with the local utilities to get that number up as quickly as possible. With that, let me ask Administrator Fugate to join me.
There's a saying in my business that all disasters are local, but it never said you're by yourself. The governor's team and all of the mutual aid and state agencies supporting our job on behalf of Secretary Napolitano and President Obama is to bring all the federal resources to bear that we need to support this community. The governor has asked and the president has granted one of the first steps of that recovery, which is a declaration for a major presidential for individual assistance. What does that mean? It means those individuals in the counties declared can begin applying for FEMA assistance by calling 1-800-621-FEMA. You can go online to disasterassistance.gov or go to m.fema.gov for information on your mobile. But a lot of people right now aren't home, don't have phones, don't have access to the internet. That's the other reason why we actually deploy vehicles out here. You pass one up the street that's got the FEMA DHS on it. People that need to register with FEMA can go to that vehicle and start that registration process so we can begin helping you as you rebuild your lives. As the president said, we're not here just for the short run. We'll be here under the leadership of Secretary Napolitano supporting the governor and his team for the long haul. With that.
Who's next? You want to introduce the Secretary?
Yes. And we're very pleased to have the Secretary with us, Secretary Napolitano, joining us today. She's got a busy schedule heading to New Jersey, I think, from here.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank thank you. First of all, again, a thanks to all of the first responders in this area who helped on Saturday and Sunday and are helping now and as we move from response to recovery. Special thanks again not only to the first responders but to the National Guard. We have had a very tight and good relationship with the local officials and the state in response to Hurricane Irene. Governor Cuomo has been on the phone relentlessly, making sure that federal resources were being brought to bear, and indeed they are. As Craig said, this is one of the first areas to be declared a presidential major disaster. That means that individuals who need help now in rebuilding their lives can begin the process. And the process begins first with registering with FEMA so we know who you are and where you are, and begin the exchange of information that we will need. 1-800-621-FEMA, 1-800-621-FEMA, disasterassistance.gov, or m.fema.gov, or just go to the FEMA truck. We are here. One thing I would like to reiterate is every disaster has three parts. The preparation part, and there was great preparation done in New York. It really did minimize loss of life, although we did lose some lives, and our condolences to the families who did lose their loved ones. But we were able to minimize loss of life, minimize damage to property to the extent you can when you're dealing with an event of this sort. Response, the ability to respond quickly, get people on the ground quickly, that has gone very, very well. And again, the credit for that goes to many of the people who we saw lining the road just a minute or two ago. And then the third is recovery. That takes longer. It takes patience and commitment. But even though some of us will be leaving and going to other states that have been hurt by Irene, FEMA will not be going. We will remain here. There will be a presence here. We will be helping you with this recovery and bringing this community back to where it was before. It will be a process. It will take some time. There's a lot of damage here. Everybody can see it just walking around, and you certainly can see it from the air. But we will be partners with you through this recovery period. And with that, I'd like to introduce someone who's been a great partner of ours throughout Hurricane Irene, and that's your governor, Governor Cuomo.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, Director Fugate, we sincerely thank you for coming and taking the time to be with us in this hour of need. Let's give them a round of applause. We know you're busy. We know you have a lot going on. All the partners who have come together, you have members from the congressional delegation who are here today, from the state senate who are here today, the local officials, the National Guard. You know, Madam Secretary, New Yorkers are a tough breed. And in our darkest hours is when we shine the brightest. And we came together around Hurricane Irene. We were neighbors. We really brought life to the sense of community. First responders who were here, the police, the firefighters who put their lives on the line. Let's give them a round of applause. As governor, I'm very proud of the way New York has really stepped up and New Yorkers have come together once again around this crisis. And Madam Secretary, it's important that you're here because there are two realities to what Irene did to New York. And one reality was New York City and Long Island, and in some ways we celebrated that the damage wasn't as bad as it could have been downstate New York City and Long Island. That's one reality. There's an exactly opposite reality in upstate New York, the Mid-Hudson, the Catskills, the North Country, that paid a terrible, terrible price for this storm and is going to need our time and attention and our resources to restore. And that's why it's important that the Secretary and the Director are here today. On the numbers, on the damage, which we're just putting together, we believe at the end of the day, the total damage will be close to $1 billion. Over 600 homes destroyed, 6 towns inundated, 150 major highways have been damaged, 22 state bridges closed. In the area of agriculture, over $45 million in damage, 140,000 acres and still climbing. So the damage that we have sustained is significant. And sometimes the bottom line is the bottom line. We need help on the economics. We'll bring the energy, we'll bring the commitment, we'll bring the drive, we'll bring the know-how. But these are not communities of deep pockets, and these are communities that will need help, economic help to restore themselves, and we're looking forward to the partnership with the federal government to help us on this. We also believe, Madam Secretary, that there's a silver lining to this storm. We're not just going to rebuild. We are going to rebuild back better than ever before. We're going to use this as an opportunity to not just restore, but actually make this a stronger community, a stronger town, a stronger county than ever before. That's what we're all about as New Yorkers. That's what we've done before, and that's what we're going to do again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
They've only been here for the cameras, and I think a lot of the other residents have been upset. The ones that have helped us is the local fireman, Pastor Charlie Gokul of the Hunter Christian Training Camp, who took a lot of the residents that have been displaced up there, and Great Sheriff Rick Seeley. That same night, he had food and packs up there for us. These guys came parading down through the next town the next day, and they were gone. And they just showed up today, and I want to know if they're going to stay here or they're going to hit the bricks with the cameras like they did before.
Yeah.
Because I've got mud in my house and water. If they're going to be standing around here, they can come help me in my house.
I understand. First, it's not, I understand. It's not either or, it's both. As I said before, the first responders have been tremendous and shown courage. And New Yorkers have come together, and the sense of community and neighborliness has been really something to marvel at. The National Guard, we've had over 2,500 National Guard deployed all across the state. I've been working with them for days. They have done a fantastic job, and I'm proud of their service, and I thank them for their service. Can I have any questions from the press for myself or Secretary Napolitano?
Governor, for the Secretary and for the Administrator, Governor Cuomo sought a larger disaster declaration. 26 counties, I believe 8 counties were approved for individual.
You want to take it, Greg?
Preliminarily.
When are we going to see additional counties added? What's that process and what's the likelihood of it happening?
The likelihood is high. It will go fast. The governor's request, we made a decision to take the information we had and go with it rather than wait for counting everything. So as additional communities, we get the damage there, we'll add those on where warranted. But we felt it was prudent to take what information we had and move it, not wait till we had all of the counties, and we are continuing to work that. Our federal coordinating officer is working with the governor's team, and that process is much faster. We don't have to go back on each request to add on a county through the same process, the initial process of getting a declaration. So this is about speed, getting those that we know turned on fast. We'll keep adding as we find more damages to support that.
Do people in Staten Island or Westchester County register now, or do they have to wait?
If they call in the system, we'll take their information. So, but we won't until we get damage assessments to support the governor's request. But if they do call in, we'll start that registration. But we wanted to take what we had and move fast and add on as we get more damages.
Sir, what realistically can individuals expect from this, and in what circumstances do they have to receive loans or grants?
All of the assistance provided is based upon the need. So the first question will be flood insurance, and again, we know a lot of people don't have flood insurance. So those without flood insurance, the next question will be a loan for businesses, because that would be the mechanism for business to get assistance, but also for homeowners. The FEMA grants, quite honestly, are to help you get started. They're not going to make you whole. Top maximum that we provide in those programs is about $30,000. But as the governor knows from his days at HUD, another big partner in this that will be joining us in this recovery is going to be HUD and their programs to the Community Block Development Grant dollars. So FEMA assistance is really to get you started, to help in the most immediate needs, housing assistance, rental assistance. But we're bringing the whole family. Secretary Napolitano works with Sean Donovan at HUD, and we know we got some long-term housing and recovery issues.
Is there a typical or average grant that people would get if they qualify?
You know, this is something that's always case by case. When you ask averages, it depends upon how bad it was and what was eligible. It sometimes is 2,000 to 3,000, sometimes it's the full 30,000. But it's really based upon need. So neighbor by neighbor is not the way to compare it. It's actually each family we look at individually what assistance they're going to need.
We read about cash issues for FEMA. Do you have enough money to fund recovery efforts here?
I do not have enough money to rebuild, but we do have money to continue to respond to support individual assistance, and that's our priority right now. We are working with the White House on what the funding needs will be. As the governor says, it's not just what we have here in New York. We have multiple states hit, so we're working on what additional funding we'll need for the recovery, long-term rebuilding. Our focus right now are on the individuals, emergency, all of the costs associated with the first responders, National Guard, making sure we're able to support that throughout all of the states.
And sir, how long could it be until the money is actually here?
For individual registrations, the mechanics of this is pretty straightforward. Of course, it is something you have to do. You have to register. We get an inspector. We need to make sure we know who you are, where you live. We want to go look at your damages, and as soon as we can confirm that and determine what assistance you're eligible for, that's usually a process of days. One of the things we knew because we saw this was we began getting people ready on our side to get in here to support the governor's request. So when he asked, we weren't waiting. These vehicles were being moved here in the state, and again, I think we have the advantage of a governor who has had federal experience. He's worked in HUD. He knows these programs. He knows what he's got to get for the state, and we're working to support him.
So the money should start coming in days?
Generally for individual assistance, again, as people register, generally within the first couple of days we'll start seeing the first checks coming in, but you got to register. First step, 1-800-621-FEMA. Go down to the FEMA bus, register now so we can get those inspectors out and start helping.
Governor Cuomo,
Jimmy, hold on 1 second.
One thing, I was a little remiss in not asking the chair of the county legislature, Wayne Speenberg, to come up, and also Corey O'Hara, who are here. And I just want to get the local perspective from both of these gentlemen who have been working tirelessly. And I want to also note that Assemblyman Lopez has joined us as well.
Thank you, Governor, for coming. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
You bet.
The thing I want to address is this gentleman's comments regarding the National Guard. And I understand frustration. And I understand that we can't be every place at all times. But I want to correct the perception that nobody should leave here with. And that is, on Monday, the National Guard was going door to door through all the homes on the mountaintop. They were deployed to all the homes. They were also deployed to get water, and they had water available to anybody that wanted water. Now, I know there's frustration, and I know that at times that we can't be bingo, get things done. But I'm going to tell you, the National Guard has done an exceptional job, and so please don't have the perception. I know that some people get perceptions the wrong way. There are partners. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Madam Secretary, just a quick question from NBC News. The 9/11 Commission came out with a report today saying that in an event of a natural disaster, the country would not be completely prepared to respond to it because it's unsure who would be in charge. For example, the Gulf oil spill, Katrina, it's according to the Commission, unsure who would respond to it. How would you respond to that, to what the Commission said today? It's in a 10-year report card.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I would say this: when this storm first started forming, and we knew as it bounced off of Puerto Rico, and the projections were that it was going to come, it was going to hit the mainland United States. The initial projections, of course, were that it would be a Cat 3. We immediately instituted what's called HSPD 5, Homeland Security Presidential Directive 5, which makes the Secretary of Homeland Security the overall incident coordinator. We have used that in a number of disasters. I can't speak to Katrina. I wasn't there. BP was a very unusual situation because it was not a natural disaster, and it fell under a different law, and therefore it was not treated quite the same. So it's hard to compare to BP, but in virtually every other thing that we have dealt with over the last 2.5 years, we have used the Department of Homeland Security as the overall incident coordinator.
Governor Cuomo, what state funds, if any, will be available? We heard about federal funds. There's an $800 million surplus this year in the budget. What's the state helping look like?
I don't want to leave our federal partners with the idea that we have a lot of money, Shannon. There was an $800 million possible surplus, right, a few months ago when the economy was starting to rebound. By our estimates, the revenues post that period have actually slowed down. So we're going to be working in partnership with the federal government, with local governments, and we're going to do what we have to do, Jimmy. The repairs have to be done. Money is tight all over. We can't expect the federal government to pay for everything. We can expect the federal government to be a partner in the effort. And then the state's going to have to work it out in the spirit of that partnership. But we're going to do what we have to do.
Comment on electricity. 22% of New Yorkers still don't have electricity. Can you comment on progress? What does it take to get electricity back to a town like Prattsville or the rest of the state?
We have, by the end of today, we should be at about 80% restored. That's, good news, bad news. If you're in the 80%, you say, boy, that's great. It was rapid progress. If you're in the 20% that doesn't have power, it's all the time in the world. So we're working aggressively. We're working with the power companies. But as of today, we'll be at 80%. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.